A very pleasant good morning to all. I am Dr.S. Vijayarani, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology, Seethalakshmi Ramaswamy College. In this video, I am going to discuss about the movements which are led by women and in which women participation is noteworthy. Starting from freedom movement and social reform movements and contemporary movements are going to be discussed in this presentation. Before discussing about in detail about the movements, we have to know what is the meaning of a movement and when was it started in India. A movement is a group of people working together for a common social, political, or cultural goal. Movement can focus on an injustice, an opportunity for change, or even a promotion of a theory or concept. For example, anti nuclear groups, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the Dreamers Movement for Immigration Reform, and the Human Rights Campaign Advocacy for Marriage Equality. The beginning of women's movements can be observed first from a social reform movement in the 19th century. During the colonial period, women's movement in India were born out of the same historical circumstances and social milieu as earlier 19th century social reform movements, which provided a new thinking about various social institutions, practices, and social reform legislations. The women's movement's ideological and social content changed from time to time and continued into our times. In the beginning, these movements are started by men and women participated in it. Later, these movements were led by women themselves. In this video, a brief note on movements that are headed by women are going to be discussed. The beginning of movements in India was initiated by men and later joined by women. Some of the most influential men involved were Raja Ram Mohandra, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Keshav Chandra Sen, Malavari Pule, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, Mahadev Govind Ranade, and Dandakeshav Karve. The efforts of these men included abolishing sati, which was a widow's death by burning on her husband's funeral pyre, the custom of child marriage, abolishing the disfiguring of widows, banning the marriage of upper caste Hindu widows, promoting women's education, obtaining legal rights for women to own property, and requiring the law to acknowledge women's status by granting them basic rights in matters such as adoption. The first phase of movements that were started in India are social reform movements. And these social reform movements are started by social reformers in which women participated to eradicate many social evils. Among the social reformers, Rajaram Mohan Rai was the first person who paid attention to abolish sati. His attention was drawn towards the inhuman practice of sati, and from 1818 onwards, he began his active propaganda through speeches and writings against sati. Because of his effort and persuasion, the East India Company declared the sati practice illegal and a punishable offense in 1829. Rajaram Mohan Rai also opposed other evils like early marriage, polygamy, etc. He supported female education and widow and intercaste marriages. He wanted that women should have the right to inherit property, and Rajaram Mohan Rai's Brahma Samaj played a significant role in the reform activities concerning women. Next to Rajaram Mohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar is an important social reformer who worked towards propagating widow remarriage. The child marriage evil resulted in large number of young girls ending up as widows whose lives were miserable due to the severe restrictions imposed on them. He argued in favor of widow remarriage and published his work on widow remarriage in 1853. The efforts of Vidyasagar, Keshav Chandra Sen, and Dr. K. Karve resulted in the enactment of Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. In the South, Kandukuri Veerasalingam led the widow remarriage movement. Swami Dayananda Saraswati played a key role in movements insisting women education. Arya Samaj was established by Swami Dayananda Saraswati in 1875. He emphasized compulsory education for boys and girls. A series of schools for women, that is Arya Kanya Patasalas, were the first concerted effort of the Samaj to promote women's education in a systematic way. Both Brahma Samaj and Pratana Samaj made forceful efforts to prove that Hindu religious tradition were not the source of legitimacy for the sorrowful condition of women in society. Under the influence of the liberal thought of the West, the two Samajas strove to restore to women their dignified status. Next, we are going to discuss about the movements that were fight to fix the age at marriage of girls. In the 19th century, the average age of marriage for girls was 8 or 9. The extensive propaganda by Vidyasagar and other reformers in this regard led the British government to legislate in order to improve the condition of minor girls, and the age of consent bill was passed in 1860. Further, social reformers like Mahadev Govind Ranade, Bairamji Malbari, and Tej Bahadur Sapru, in their attempt to raise the age of marriage, cited several cases of consummation at the age of 10 or 11, which led to serious physical and psychological disturbances. Bairamji, a Parsi journalist, published his notes on infant marriage and enforced widowhood in 1884, suggesting certain reforms to be adopted in the educational institution to discourage child marriage, and also suggested some corrective measures to the government. At last, due to the collective efforts of the reformers, in 1891, the bill known as the Age of Consent was passed, which rose the marriageable age for girls as 12 years. The social reformers felt that through female education, the social evils that were linked to the issue of preserving and strengthening basic family structure could be eliminated. Between 1855 to 1858, Vidyasagar established 48 girls' schools as he served as the inspector of schools. M.G. Ranade, along with his wife, propagating female education and started a girls' high school in 1884. The limited enforcement and practicability of legislations like Widow Remarriage Act of 1856 and others in a tradition-bound society was recognized by D.K. Carvey, who therefore concentrated his efforts on promoting education among widows. In 1896, Carvey, along with 15 of his colleagues, founded Anant Balikashram for the education of widows. He also started Mahila Vidyalaya in 1907 and SNDT Women's University in 1916, a separate educational institution for women, so as to lessen the resistance of orthodox section with regard to women's education. The next phase of movements in India are the Nationalist Movement. Compared to the first phase, in this second phase of movements, women participated a lot. They have participated in agitations, campaigns, and even they have been arrested and went to prisons. And in this topic, we are going to discuss about some of the events, freedom movement events, where women participated in it. The Swadeshi movement, and in this period there was absence of mass awakening amongst women, but meetings were arranged and khadi spinning were taken up by women. Women contributed their bangles, nose rings and bracelets to the national fund. The women workers of the Arya Samaj were also responsible for arousing national spirit among the people. This Swadeshi period marked the formation of several women organizations. Sarala Devi took up steps to organize the women's movement, and it reduces in the form of Bharat Stri Mahila Mandal in Lahore in 1910. Parvati Devi, the headmistress of a Hindu girls' school at Kanchi, a small town in the Madras Presidency, started Kanchi Mahila Parishad to equip women of Kanchi with the knowledge to create public opinion over burning issues of the nation. The entry of Mahatma Gandhi with his experience altered the national politics dramatically. Gandhian style of mass mobilization had implications for the Indian women's movement in as much as increasing number of women were sought to be mobilized for participation in the independent movement. When Gandhi launched an All India Satyagraha in 1919 against the provocative enactment of the Rowlatt Act, women took out processions, propagated the use of khadi, and even courted jail. Further, the non-cooperation movement awakened the women of all sections and imparted first lessons in Satyagraha. A large number of women, including Sarojini Naidu, actively took part in the Dandi March. Women participated by breaking salt laws, forest laws, taking out processions, picketing schools, colleges, legislative councils, and clubs. Further, in 1931, Sarojini Naidu attended the Second Roundtable Conference as an official representative of the women of India. During this phase, Kamaladevi Chattopadhyaya addressed meetings and picketed foreign cloth and liquor shops. She was in charge of the women's wing of the Hindustan Sheva Dal. A large number of women effectively participated and sacrificed their life for the cause of the nation in the nationalist movements. After independence, the third phase of movements has come, and in the third phase, women they themselves led the movements for the cause of environment and other social issues. Some of the iconic movements like Chipko Movement and Narmada Bacho and then anti-Iraq movements are going to be discussed in this video. One of the first and foremost forest conservation movement named Chipko Movement is the first one that we are going to discuss. Chipko Movement, also called as Chipko Andalan, a non-violent social and ecological movement by rural villagers, particularly women in India in 1970s, and they aimed at protecting the trees and forests slated for government backed logging. The movement originated in the Himalayan region of Uttarakhand, the then part of Uttar Pradesh, in 1973 and quickly spread throughout the Indian Himalayas. The Hindi word Chipko means to hug or to cling to and reflects the demonstration primary tactic of embracing trees to impede loggers. The movement started in 1964 by the environmentalist and Gandhian social activist Chandi Prasad Bhatt by founding a cooperative organization named Dasholi Gram Swarajya Sangh, later known as Dasholi Gram Swarajya Mandal, to foster small industries for rural villages using local resources. The first Chipko protest occurred in 1973 near the village of Mandal in the upper Alkanda Valley. The reason behind the protest was the then government allotted natural resources to large scale industry and denied it to the local small scale industries. After many such protests, the government decided to cancel the agreement to the large scale industries. Sundarlal Bahuguna, a local environmentalist, began to share Chipko's tactics with people in other villages throughout the region. One of the next major protests occurred in 1974 near the village of Reni, where more than 2,000 trees were scheduled to be felled. Bahuguna famously fasted for 2 weeks in 1974 to protest forest policy. The movement has got its momentum on March 26, 1974, with a group of 28 women led by Gaura Devi in Uttarakhand's Garhwal region clung to trees to prevent them from being felled. Suraksha Devi, Sudesha Devi, Bajni Devi, Chandi Bhatt, Vriksha Devi, and others too went on to become renowned environmental activists from Uttarakhand. The movement followed the Gandhian Satyagraha style of non-violent protest and became a benchmark for several future environmental movements. It is estimated that between 1972 and 1979, more than 150 villages were involved with the Chipko movement, resulting in 12 major protests and many minor confrontations in Uttarakhand. The movement's major success came in 1980 when an appeal from Bahuguna to Indian Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi resulted in a 15-year ban on commercial felling in the Uttarakhand Himalayas. The Chipko movement is one of the first example of ecofeminism in the country where women not only played a vital role but also were the mainstay of the movement and participated as the biggest stakeholders. After all, the cutting of trees affected women most with deforestation causing the depletion of firewood, fodder, water, and other household necessities. This picture shows how women are very close to nature and how they are dedicated to preserve the nature from others. In India, the Narmada Bacho Andolan is a social movement that was started in 1985 by local tribal people, farmers, conservationists, and human rights advocates to protest several major dam construction projects on the Narmada River, which runs through the states of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. The Narmada Bacho Andolan, led by activist Mehta Patkar and Tess, and yet another women-led environmental movement against the construction of a multi-crore project involving dams over the Narmada River. The movement started in 1985 and was focused on the displacement of thousands of people in the region who would be left homeless. An estimated 250,000 people stand to be displaced if the project is carried out as per plans. The movement was led by a collective of people including tribals, activists, students, environmentalists, and farmers. It mainly opposed the Narmada Dam project, which ostensibly aims to provide electricity to states like Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, through which the Narmada River passes. Under Patkar the, and Baba Amte, the movement grew and used several tactics like hunger strikes, mass and public demonstrations, and collusion with public celebrities as ways to further their cause. Patkar, who herself has been at the forefront of the strikes, satyagrahas, and protests, has even been to jail several times. The Narmada Bachao Andolan has won the Right Livelihood Award in 1991 and enjoys the support of international community. The land of the people was submerged when the Narmada Dam was built over the Narmada River. 3,000 small and large dams were constructed as part of this project. Mehta Patkar and her associates began the most effective mass movement for the rehabilitation or relocation of the affected people, the Narmada Bachao Andolan in 1985, in opposition to the building of massive dams over the river Narmada, with the objectives of to stop dam construction, to rehabilitate the displaced people, to prevent their homes and territory from being submerged. The movement has achieved the following. The World Bank was kicked out of the Sardar Sarovar project in 1993, and work was stopped between 1994 to 1999. 1999 to 2001, the Maheshwar project was abandoned by foreign investors. The Narmada Bacho Andolan has won the Right Livelihood Award and enjoys the support of the international community. Chipko Movement and Narmada Bachao Andolan are the eco movements that were led by women. And the third one and last one of this video is the anti-Iraq movement, which is also led by women, but it is for the cause of the society. Tired of their domestic abuse and their unemployed husbands spending all their money on locally made alcohol, the women from the small village of Dubagunta in Andhra Pradesh began a movement that forced the state and several private agencies to bring complete prohibition against country liquor in 1990. The movement started after a national literacy mission that was gaining ground in Nellore brought to the fold hundreds of women who came together in mass gatherings to discuss their problems. The high levels of consumption of arak among men as well as women was found to be the root cause of the economic and domestic strife of the women's lives. The culmination of the dialogues was the anti-Arab protest, a call for a total ban on manufacture, sale and consumption of country-made arak. As protest fanned by out across the state, the women tool on the murky and powerful crime political nexus behind the production of arak, which was the major source of revenue for the state government. The illicit liquor trade brought in high volumes of revenue to both alcohol contractors and politicians. The women started with destroying ingredients used to concoct arak at the home and raided local hook sellers and distributors to destroy their licenses. They also started policing their husbands at home. At its height, the movement led by strong women leaders like Ver Rosamma managed to mobilize over 10,000 people from 300 villages and even gained political traction from parties like BJP and the left. Despite opposition from local bureaucracy, criminals, even law enforcement agencies, the women managed to convince the government to bring about a total prohibition of liquor in their state. Besides the above mentioned movements, women also fought for common societal causes. In the beginning, movements that fought against some of the social evils against women were initiated by men. Later on, women gained momentum and organized themselves to fight for their rights and privileges. Apart from women issues, women empowerment, women development, and against discriminatory practices, common issues attracted women leaders. Some of the movements are so intense that they bring constitutional amendments in the country. Everything is within your power, and your power is within you. Thank you.